Hey, welcome back, everybody. Another episode of the Roundtable, Rams Up Roundtable number 43. Got Paul and Ian here. Man, we got a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about as the Rams head into training camp. Exciting times. And man, really thrilled with where this team is headed. And to segue into that, it was announced today, Ian shared this with us, that Kyren Williams was listed as the 78th best player, top 100 in the NFL. Tell us how that went down. Is that that's a player's vote, right, Ian?
Yes, that's the big one that, carries a lot of weight in the league amongst players and sometimes executives as well, where you've seen it was a big show not that long ago now. I'm not too sure if they're even airing anything. I think they're just putting out the list where, they give the players a top 10 to top 20 list where they would write down who they think is number 1 down to 20 or 25 or 10. I think they've given different lists to different people. And based upon that, they compile who's the top 100 out of everyone's handwritten, turned in physical list by every player that wants to participate, which there is a significant amount, in Kyren being voted in the top 100. He was an all-pro, probably should be higher, truthfully, for what he meant to the Rams, what he accomplished out of nowhere, right? Still in the spotlight from Cam Akers week 1, and that was it. That's all she wrote for Mr. Akers. And Kyren's a beast, man. I just hope to see him be a top 100 player for many years. Sure.
So we're thinking Puka's going to be there somewhere. Cooper Cup, perhaps. I don't know what his peers are thinking about him right now.
Yeah.
Hey, and so tell us about this Kyren snippet that we saw, Paul. The little video that was shared, him shouting out, giving kudos to Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, it was a great interview on the Rich Eisen show. Iron Kyren just talking about his development, talking about a lot of other things, talking about the Ram culture. And then they asked him specifically what it's like to play with Optimus 9 and Ram Nation. We're going to be talking about him in a couple of minutes. We got some great news. Take a look down there at my boy Ian's background. So, listen, we have a snippet for you. We're going to play it just so you can hear right from the big dog's mouth. But basically what he tells us is this: playing with number 9 is for him was inspirational. You talk about modeling the way. That's what Sean McVay always talks about, modeling the way. And he says, you watch number 9 prepare, you watch him play, you see the work ethic. And he cited that game against Indianapolis when, Optimus can barely walk. He walks to the huddle and he drives him down the field, right, for the game winner. So when, talking about this whole contract situation, and we've been talking about it for the last couple of segments, the value of Matthew Stafford is not just in what he does on the field, because what he does on the field is absolutely exceptional. And the quarterback rankings are laughable that have been on ESPN and everywhere else, just absolutely laughable. But it's what he brings from that character part of it, the leadership aspect of it, what we call the intangibles. And that's why they're called intangibles. You cannot hang a price tag on intangibles. Look what everybody says when they talk about AD. They start with the intangibles, what he brings from that aspect of it, and then the accountability, and then the production. And it's the same thing for Optimus 9.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. We need him.
Yeah. And so, we're heading into training camp, and I guess today was presser Tuesday as the Rams get ready for that. Tell us, Ian, about some of these press conferences you caught today.
Yep. Everyone checking in today. Practice starts tomorrow out at Loyola, the university right there by SoFi Stadium, not too far away, very close to LAX, very close to the ocean breeze, so it shouldn't be as burning hot as it was at UC Irvine, or it will be in the future up in Woodland Hills, where I know it gets pretty hot there in the valley. I've been there in the summer. Oh man, that's going to be some hot training camps for us when we make that trip. But today, check-in day, everyone talking who was available. And who was available, Paul? Mr. Rob Havenstein, the big monster.
Big Rob.
Ready to go. And I love hearing him talk. He just has a very serious yet comforting tone, if that makes sense. I mean, what did you take away from his presser?
Right away, you knew who the leaders were, right? Yeah. Rob Havenstein led it off. And he talked about, we're coming into camp, being able now to practice, pick up not where they left off, but get better at what they need to do so that they can play this game at a higher level. He was very even keel. He was very positive. Talked about everybody enjoying their time away, but now it's time to get to work. And he talked about being able to get it done on the field. That's something that was a theme. Lake brought it up. You heard what Lake said, right, Ian? You heard what McVay said.
Yeah.
It said it's great. And there was something Havenstein said. He's like, it's one thing. There are a lot of great teams that are great on paper, but you got to be great on the field. And that was the one thing that stood out with me. I love his even keel attitude. Listen, the Havenstein monster, he's alive and kicking. We know about that health scenario last year with the knee and a little bit of the back, but hopefully he's 100%. That right side with Dotson and the Havenstein monster, K-Dot, woof, dude, I'll take that. That right side is just straight fire.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Mark, real quick, speaking of his lineman, Steve Avila spoke as well at today's presser. He was made available, and another guy who has a different feel of confidence, right? Rob is, like I said, the more serious, more even-keeled, not a lot of smirks and smiles. Just like, I'm here for business. It has that energy to it, which I like. Steve's smiley. He's happy to be there. He's like, man, what a great first year I had. I'm so excited to get back. And he said he will miss playing against and practicing against Aaron Donald. He says, you know what? Our battles in training camp last year made me so much better. And that's one of the many things that we'll miss as Rams fans, and our team will miss clearly. And, people were asking, hey, how is the transition to center? Who will you lean on? He's like, I'm going to lean on everybody possible. Coaching, quarterback, other linemen. He's like, I'm going to be ready to rock by week 1. And that was great to hear from a new center for this team, an important position, especially in this offense, man. People talk about it all the time, how quarterback, center, and tight end are probably the most complicated groups of any McVay offense, whether it's the zone scheme or now this power, gap scheme that we do now. Those three are always talked about as the hardest to learn. And I believe, Steve, you'll be ready by week 1 to smash on some Lions.
So what were some of the other pressers? Go ahead.
And one additional thing, I think a lot of people have sort of overlooked that this transition to center for Avila and how significant it is. Listen, he also has the protection calls. This is a pass first offense. Ian and I are probably the happiest in Ram Nation. We're running the football again. But think about it this way. We're still, look at that ratio. We're hoping to get to 45-55, right?
Yeah, I get
pass. But, Avila's got to he's got to keep Stafford upright, right? So those protection calls and everything else and picking up the stunts and blitzers and all that, it's a totally different situation when you're doing it at center. And, you have to bring that up. And I don't think enough people are talking about what that means for this kid and the positive approach that he's taking to it. So the presser for me was very, very positive. And, also, every time I see Avila when they talk about center, I always miss my boy Shelton Coleman. I know he took a lot of heat, but Coleman was my boy. That kid was nasty. But
shout out to Coleman. He's an LA native. Shout out to him.
That's right, baby. And but big dog Avila is going to shut it down.
I think so too. Yep.
So who else was up there? Quentin Lake? Was he?
Quentin Lake. Yeah, he talked to a good man. We got some good details from him, and people, ask him, hey man, how's it been now? Do you feel more acclimated? Do you feel like a true veteran? He's like, I feel pretty good. I feel like I'm young, but I feel like I know what's up now. And he's excited to play with Cam Curl. He is very excited. He said, man, he's another young guy who has a lot of experience and is incredibly talented. And along with that, the question came up of like, hey, are you comfortable being in a traditional up top role? You've been obviously a big nickel, star, a nickel, whatever you want to call it, dime. He's played in the past as well for us. It's like, are you comfortable playing traditional up top, not close to the line of scrimmage? And he says, look, it is an adjustment, sure. But he said, wherever the Rams need me to play, and as long as I am on the field and making an impact, a positive impact to winning games, he's like, I don't give a damn, pretty much. And I like that from Quinn. Now, again, he even talked about it. we got to see how things shake out. Things can change. And he talked about that. He's like, nothing is set in stone. We're obviously going to figure out who are the best group of 4, the best group of 5, right, for nickel packages, the best group of 6 when we go into dime packages. That's all going to play itself out in the camp, joint practices. But Quinn Lake seems like he doesn't care who he's going to play as long as he's making a positive impact. And that was good this year. And I'm glad that he thinks Cam Curl's good. That's nice.
Yeah. Hey, I saw Quentin Lake interviewed on one of the, it might have been ESPN, NFL Network. I don't know where it was. Yeah. And I wasn't really paying attention. And I heard him speaking and I was like, geez, this guy has a future in broadcasting, so well-spoken, super intelligent. And
speaking of well-spoken, he was really, really happy that John Johnson's back.
I was just about to add that. Yeah, so I think Lake's going to get a phone call from the NFLPA because the 18-game question came up a couple of times. So when they asked Big Rob goes, "I'll leave that to the NFLPA to handle how we feel about that as players." Yeah. When Lake was asked, he was like, "Hey, listen, they can add 22 games. I'm happy." So he might get a call from the NFLPA about, "Listen, you got to tone it down there." So the other aspect of it was, so the other thing was, what jumped out at me was when he was asked about JJ. He was really, really happy that JJ's there. He said listen what he said. He's a great communicator, great presence in the locker room. Just what we said. Everything that we heard about JJ previously. So, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be really hard to keep JJ out of the starting lineup. If he has a decent camp, he's familiar with the system. They also said that they are not changing a lot. Shula's not changing a lot. The system is being tweaked, right? And it makes sense. It's staying there. I think we might be looking at Lake staying at the star. I think the Rams are going to play a lot of 2-4-5. I think they're going to play a lot of 3-3-5 because now if you look at that secondary configuration, they're probably best when Lake is on the field. That 5 D-back sequence, think about what you would have. You would have JJ, right? You would have Curl. You would then have Lake, right? T Money when he gets back, and then you would have D-Will. Mm-hmm. That secondary configuration on a regular basis, and if you look up front with what they have, I think they can handle the run. I think that 3-3-5 look would be phenomenal. Boom probably would not be on the field when they go to that, or with that 2-4-5 look. Even when they go to that, might be something that we'll see a lot more of. But based on that response, just not to read too much into it, which I actually am, right? I think that might be sort of an indicator of what we might see down the road.
So who else was up there before we get to McVay's press conference?
Mark, your boy was up there. Tutu was up there.
Oh, Tutu, yeah. And, I caught him and JJ on that podcast. I don't even know
podcast.
I don't even know who the host was there. Really interesting to hear those guys talk about the difference about living in Miami and LA. Yeah, LA is more expensive, but you have a lot more opportunity to spend money in Miami at 2 a.m, I guess. Yeah. Which I didn't necessarily want to hear from our guys, but
Ram Nation, if you don't know, Mark has been on me to take it easy on Tutu. And after this year, after everything with Cam Kinchins and Tutu, I now have a soft spot in my heart for Tutu. So just a couple of quick things on Tutu. So first of all, shout out to Tutu. He was on another interview with Vamos Rams. Great sequence. And he shouted out LA is having better tacos than Miami. So there you go, Ram Nation.
Jesus.
So that was one thing. So the other thing that Tutu talked about is that Tutu, first of all, he referred to himself as the third person. When they asked him about returning kicks, he goes, I think we're going to see Tutu back there. So Tutu's going to be back there.
Good.
Do you think that is a done deal? Really? That's really surprising to me.
And Tutu brought up an interesting point is that he said, because they got to wait for me to catch it, he says he thinks it's going to be a little bit easier for him to sort of, I guess from the wear and tear standpoint, to make positive run backs. And it does make sense to a certain degree with the new format. So he says he thinks he's going to be back there. I think it would be a great opportunity for him. Listen, this is his contract year. He said in that podcast that Mark was citing that he wants to stay. It was with Johnny Johnson, Ram Nation. It was Johnny Johnson and Tutu. They both said the same thing. They want to stay. Johnny Johnson, quote unquote, said this. That's why I came back. This is a great place to be.
And that was last year. That was at the end of this last year. So I mean, shocker, he's back on another 1 year veteran minimum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Tutu was like, I want to stay. I want to stay. He was saying that. He says, that's why I want to stay here too.
And a lot of it has to do with McVay. Really does.
Yeah. And the other thing that Tutu has to understand is that Tutu, if you want to stay, that's fantastic. But Tutu, you gotta show up, son. You gotta make plays. So Tutu has been talking up just about making plays. That's all he's talking about. Making plays. They're saying he's up to 172 now. Ram Nation, as you know, when he got drafted, he was in the 160s, so that's a big deal. So hopefully those LA tacos are kicking in. But I just like his presence. I like his approach. Shout out to Miami-Dade. Tutu talks about how great his community has been for him growing up there and his family. So hopefully Tutu can make it happen. He's a game breaker. If they can fit him into this offense and find opportunities, I mean, that wide receiver room is just going to be absolutely off the charts.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Tutu, and I have asked you to probably calm down on Tutu, be nice to him, but I'm a big Jordan Whittington guy at the same time. And, that one interview I saw with McVay, he pointed out that, I don't know if it was the host or him, that when they have guys like Puka out there, they're in 11 personnel, but they can run 12 personnel plays because of the type of player they are. I don't think you can do that with Tutu. That's the thing, is how they're going to have plays, certain plays where he can participate in, right? So I'm just not sure he's going to get the opportunities.
So one thing where he's in, and Ian and definitely expand upon this. So one thing that I've noticed is that from last year, the one thing I saw in Tutu, his route running improved dramatically.
100%.
By far. 100% was the single most noticeable, if you want to see improvement. On those crossing routes, he is absolutely deadly. We saw that in the Detroit game, right? He's absolutely deadly on those crossing routes. So I think he is going to fit very nicely into that WR Force role because they're going to bring him in, pick his spots, whether it's a reverse, whether it's something, whether it's a dig route or something like that, a mesh route, whatever it may be. They're going to get the ball in his hands where he's moving. That's the key. Get him the ball when he's moving. And listen, remember when they drafted him, he led the nation in splash plays. And McVay, Ian's going to talk a little bit about this from McVay's presser. McVay was talking a lot about splash plays, so I think it might fit. Ian, what are your thoughts on Tutu?
Tutu's a legit wide receiver in this league. He just doesn't get opportunity. And when he did, week 1 went off on the Seahawks. Week 2 went off on the 49ers. He can run routes. He has good hands. He can make tough catches. The dude can play. Think about the couple throws that he got in the wild card game. Tough-handed catch. Not a body catch. Tough-handed catch for a small guy. See ya. Get off me. Went for a touchdown. He has a lot of potential. But the problem is his size. We've talked about a bunch. And to your point, Mark, about the running 12 personnel plays out of 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers instead of 2 tight end sets, it's just he's a willing blocker. He can get in front of people and cut people off. But if you're asking him to lead block like a fullback, like Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp are regularly asked to, or even DeMarcus Robinson every so often, he just doesn't have the body type to do it. So because of that, they have shifted his role into more wide receiver 4/3 rotationally, which is what we saw at the end of last season. And it's unfortunate because he can play wide receiver. If Tavon Austin can run the routes as good as Tutu or could catch as good as Tutu, Tavon Austin would take that all day. And if Tutu could have maybe a bigger body like a Tavon, even though Tavon wasn't a big guy either, I'm sure he would take that too. And it's unfortunate because Tutu can play in this league. It's just his body size and his weight is what holds him back. But there's no doubt about it, everybody. Watch the film. Watch those first 2 weeks I mentioned. Week 1, Seattle. Week 2, 49ers. The guy can play wide receiver, run routes, make big catches, run, and everything other than maybe lay out a linebacker like Nacua and Kupp could do. But he can play. he can definitely play.
And
Now, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was just going to say, not a bad option as your fourth or fifth guy. That's for
No,
sure.
and I think on top of this, I think because he knows that he's being phased out just based off the circumstances of what our scheme demands of wide receivers, be a great wide receiver, but also be a great fullback half the time too. It's really incredible. No other team does this, by the way. So because he knows that he does not fit into that, unfortunately, he knows that the kick return is where he's going to make some money and get future contracts.
You know where he may have additional value, as we talked about last time with McVay and his compressed sets. As that running game gets going and those safeties start cheating down, when he's the one receiver, the WR1 on the lineup, right? Yeah. When he's in that configuration,
the X.
That's it. When he's in that X, or even if he doesn't go, or if he does go in motion, even from the Z, whatever it may be, when he runs those posts, right? When he runs those posts, those corner routes, those deep corner routes, listen, he is going to be a problem, right? And he's going to keep those safeties honest. I think
he has been. I mean, think about it. He's either making a big catch or he's getting PI'd. So I mean, regardless, he's affecting it in a positive way going deep. So I think
he's going to get even more opportunities this year too. I think Ian's right. I agree that in my mind, the way they had Demarcus Robinson and him sort of alternating in certain scenarios, I think that's the best way to go moving forward. I think you can find spots for this kid. This kid has a much improved demeanor, a much different approach to the game. He admitted that he's excited that Cam Kinchens is on board, his buddy from high school. Listen, makes a big difference.
So which one of you wants to talk about this McVay presser, and maybe and we'll have to talk about the Stafford news as well. Who wants to take that?
We're going to let Ian take the lead on this one.
Well, Matthew Stafford's back, in case you haven't heard by now. And thank God. Shout out number 9 in my background here if you're watching on YouTube. We appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you are on the YouTube. And if you're listening anywhere else, thank you very much. We very much appreciate it and notice. But, guys, McVay's comments today at this opening day of press conferences of this, walk into camp day, like we talked about the other players doing. McVay does not have a good poker face. And we've talked about it on this roundtable many and many a times about whatever's going on in his brain. It leaks into his press conferences when he speaks to us or the media, however you want to take that. And the relief on this man's face, Coach McVay's face, about Stafford coming in and it not lingering into camp, this was bigger than probably we all anticipated, sincerely. And the Rams did a good job. McVay's camp did a great job of hiding that this was a big deal down under, because McVay had talked about how it wasn't just when our reporters, which I like, were pressing kind of hard to be like, yo, what were these conversations like? Why were you late to the press conference by a couple hours, right? He was supposed to speak at like 9:10 and he was not speaking until 11:12. And they were talking with, Stafford in person on a phone call with Les, Tony Pastores, Kroenke, everyone you can think of that's an important figure in the Rams organization. They were all talking with Stafford, and they did reach the agreement. They did adjust his contract. But as things were getting pried out of McVay, it wasn't just about money. And I think that's a big deal, truthfully, because the note or the story and narrative around the league when this was being talked about from whoever you get your NFL news from other than us is that, it's a financial thing. It's a financial thing. More guarantees. And we had talked about it that, it's probably more guarantees because the guarantees were pretty low going forward from this season and beyond. But they prided out of McVay that it was more than just a financial thing. And what I think, long story short, is that Matthew was probably like, look at guys, what's the plan for the next couple of years? Am I in those plans? What is the plan if I am in those plans to make this roster better? Probably all those complicated, scenarios that a player of this stature, a high-level quarterback, is thinking, man, I'm older. I'm going to be putting my life on, missing my young daughter's life. Like, what is the plan going forward with me? And then if I am in your plans, then what is it? And I think they had those conversations, tough, maybe financial, tough for maybe what their future is, how they view him. I think all those things were talked about. And again, the stress on McVay's face, where he's getting like the flashbacks of those conversations that when reporters were prying at him. I think there was probably some very serious topics that were brought up that were hashed out that McVay said. And he's like, well, I'm glad that we're here now, because I think those were probably those nitty gritty conversations we wish we could hear into. Right. And I think, man, I'm glad he's back, but it was serious, guys. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think we had talked about it here not too long ago. They said, what's the window? And I think we all agreed it was about 3 years, right? We said 3 or 4 years, right? The key here is that this contract was not extended in years. So we have until 2026. Optimus 9 is here, or Optimus Dime, however you want to call it, right? Mm-hmm. He is here for 3 years. And I think that's the perfect window for him, right? I think that conversation was 4 words. Right? Are we all in? He wants to hear from McVay, we are all in. He does not want to have another 2023. He wants to know, are we all in? And I think that's what McVay probably communicated. That, listen, we are all in. We got new bodies. Think of these rookie contracts. They're going to be on board till 2026. Are they not? Think about it. We're going to augment the best we can. We're going to work out these. We got some contracts coming off the books, right? So I think that was the situation. I absolutely agree with what Ian said. I think the other scenario is, they probably was more guaranteed money, right? Yeah. So like, listen, I'm going to stand back there. I'm going to take those hits, right? I'm going to make sure I get it done on my end. What are you going to do on your end? So I think that was pretty much the conversation. And if you look at the presser, what did McVay say, right, Ian? He said, all our bodies are in camp. That's quote unquote exactly what he said. We got all our bodies in camp. And I think that's what he was waiting for. I think the one thing I did like, from some of the older players, right, the vets, they're coming in with the mindset. They look much more serious. They look much more focused. They look much more intent from what I've seen. So I think that's a good sign for us. I think, we're seeing it with the comments from Iron Kyren about Staff. Staff's now on board. We got the Havenstein monster taking a more of a leadership role. You're starting to see all these positives. I think the culture is going to take over. The culture is you're going to see the benefits of that. Like I have written right here, Blue Thunder is going to start rolling. Hopefully this season, that's the way it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be. It's a long season. You're looking, 20 some games, right? It's a long, long season to get to the big dance. So I think that's the mindset the Rams have to bring. We have to be ready, one game at a time, but we have to be ready. No more of like some of that chaotic nature that we've seen over the last couple, trying to fix things midstream. Let's be ready. We'll have a contingency plan. We know injuries happen. We know other things happen. Right? We have to be ready. And I just love the fact that Optimus 9 is on board. He is an absolute gunslinger. He is a captain. He is a leader. Kid's a winner. The dude is an absolute winner.
Yeah, this franchise is in such a great place considering what they went through last year. Going into last year, they were kind of, it was a throwaway year in their minds. And if they can, show some progress, they're going to be happy. And the next thing you know, they're in the playoffs. And now they come back even better without Aaron Donald. I get it. But overall, I think an improved roster, so many weapons, young guys on defense, and a front office and a coaching staff that's just squared away, and hey, if we just dodged any possibility of drama, that's the only thing that they might have been up against if Stafford, ruffled their feathers a little bit. So it's good to have that behind us.
No, they had some tough conversations behind the scenes, and I wish I would be able to be a fly on the wall and hear those, because I am very curious. I mean, guys, if anyone hasn't watched McVay's press conference from today, opening day of entering camp, please go watch him speak about those, behind the scene conversations. The man looked stressed and relieved that the stress was over. And again, happy number 9's back, and I'm happy that he pushed the buttons of our organization to be like, what's the plan? Which is my assumption. What is
He,
the plan for the next couple years? And hey, man, glad number 9's back.
yeah, and he had just a little bit of leverage, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
without him, I don't know where we go.
Oh, yeah.
So
can you imagine if he and Cup start clicking again? Woo!
Oh, it's over.
Yeah.
Puka nails and Cup. Oh man,
It's over.
Yeah, that'll be
no one will be able
interesting.
to stop this offense if Cup is MVP Cup again, right? Offensive Player of the Year Cup should have been league MVP. Let's just be honest, over Rodgers. I mean, hey, I don't see why.
That slot fade.
Yeah. Do you guys play fantasy football? I should know the answer to this.
You bet you're behind.
Ian's 5 leagues.
Would you rather have Puka in the second or Cup in the fourth?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah, it's interesting.
I think good golly, it just depends how it goes. Depends how the board unfolds. Just like any GM, any real.
And where you're picking, where you're drafting,
where you're picking, right?
If you take Kyron in the third, when are you taking Blake?
Puka's our number 1 wide receiver. It's very clear, unless McVay's force feeding Cup, which is a very strong possibility. I think you just gotta go with young Puka, the more healthy player, who's probably going to get more targets anyway, who got the most targets even when Cup was back. Cup, is a coin flip whether he's going to be fully healthy or not going forward. That's just the reality. I think Puka in the second just makes more sense.
I've seen him going in the first, or at least some mocks, and that's a little rich for me.
It is, but
because Cup's there, only because Cup wasn't there. Yeah. So hey, let's move on to Paul. You wanted to talk about it is training camp opening up here. We got to talk roster stuff, right? So you wanted to talk a little bit about starters and open positions that are kind of up for grabs, if there are any. Take it away. How do you want to handle this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ram Nation, we had promised we would do, as the players report, we would give an update in terms of what we think some of the roster scenarios look like. Particularly, the good news is that if you take a look at the Rams scenario, a lot of their starters are pretty much penciled in. There are some roster spots that we would like to highlight our personal opinions on where some battles might take place and some surprise names that might become notable as camp progresses. So the way we decided to do this is that Ian and I we picked our favorite positions, and we're going to take a look at those. We're going to start with, of course, the big dog. We're going to start with quarterback. Ian's going to take us through quarterback and running back, and I'm going to do wide receiver, tight end. So Ian, take it away. Talk about the big man, Optimus 9.
Well, no more drama per Sean McVay, and the number 9 is in my background here, and also at Loyola. And top 5 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. Best quarterback in the National Football Conference, the NFC, which is where our playoff bracket will unfold. ESPN executive, or the ESPN poll, where they poll players and execs and GMs, believe that's the case. Number 1 starting quarterback, no matter what happens. Duh. I think Jimmy Garoppolo should be the second, and I think he will enter in as the second going in. And yes, he is suspended the first 2 games because of that ankle nonsense he was trying to get through and finagle his way with the Raiders and the Niners. And so because of that nonsense, he got suspended 2 games. But I think when he does return from suspension, he will be the second string quarterback based off his, lengthy, good to maybe not so good resume, depending on how you want to look at it. He should be quarterback 2. Now, quarterback 3, I think, should be Stetson Bennett, and he will probably be quarterback 2 for those first 2 weeks when Jimmy Garoppolo is not available. But who knows? We've seen him make big-time throws in college football. Obviously, last year was a disaster for his rookie campaign based off all the things he was dealing with, and so he is technically another rookie on the team, even though, yes, this is the second year, but I think he'll be the third quarterback as he grows into the position. And then we have Dresser Wynn, who is the fourth, who is the prototypical, what they say, camp arm. Obviously, the fourth quarterback to throw with the 90-man roster before he wiggles his way down to the 53 and so forth and so forth. Who knows? Maybe he has a good preseason. Maybe he earns or outplays Stetson Bennett. Very, very possible. Dresser has been around, been a camp arm for us for many, many years, it feels like now. He should know the offense to a solid degree, I feel. So I think that's 1, 2, 3. Glock 9, like some people like to say, quarterback 1. Jimmy G, like some people like to say, quarterback number 2. Stetson Bennett, number 3, and then Dresser Wynn, number 4. I think that's pretty straightforward.
Ian,
Now,
what do you think about the added value of Garoppolo being familiar with the 49ers, bringing some of that aspect to it?
I mean, shoot, guys. I think everybody runs a version of the Mike Shanahan offense now in the NFL. It feels that way. Now, obviously, McVay has his version. Kyle has his. You hear Bobby Slowick with Houston has his. Mike McDaniels has his. And we can go down the list of everyone. But they all come from the original Mike Shanahan West Coast offense. So the root of the playbook is the same, which I think benefits a Garoppolo, to your point. Now, I think he has mentioned that, yes, there is some similarities, but he says McVay's offense does veer very differently than Kyle's. No shock. That's what we've talked about many, many times here on the roundtable and it Rams Up. But it does help to a degree. It's not like he's learning a brand new, oh, my God, this is whose offense would be very obscure? I think possibly, he's learning the Cleveland Browns offense where, yes, that is a version of the West Coast offense, but it is not the same as this Mike Shanahan style or whoever you can go down the list is, or who can I name off the top? Like who's the New England Patriots coordinator right now? He came back, who was gone in the league from Alabama. I'm forgetting his name. He was a Texans head coach for a long time with Deshaun Watson. His offenses would be a completely 9-day difference. I'm just blanking on his name. But I think it'll help Garoppolo, to your point, Paul. And I think
it'll help us. He's familiar with the Niners and some of those tells.
Yes.
Might be
apologies. I know I went a little tangent there. I was thinking of offense. That's how my brain works. I'm just offense and just light bulbs flashing everywhere with offense. But yeah, it's going to help Garoppolo, and it should be helping him already. And then hopefully those 2 weeks where he's sitting on the couch at home suspended, he can be studying that playbook and get more acclimated too. So I think that's pretty obvious. And did you want to go running backs? Or you want to go?
As everyone knows, Ian's nickname is I Formation, right? He played running back at high school. So Ian, tell us about the running back stable. They look beastly, bro.
Yeah, Iron Karn, 78th best player based on the players list in the entire NFL. Second team All-Pro. Shocker. He's going to be the starting running back to open up camp. Now, this is where people have different opinions. I've talked to other Rams fans, but to me, it should be Blake Corum as the number 2 running back entering camp. All-American, Mr. Michigan, like many Michigan fans, Blake the Great, other Michigan fans like to call him. And based off his resume, based off the schematic fit that he is from Michigan Harbaugh style to ours now being a gap, it's 9-day. And you look at Blake Corum, I mean, we talked about it, kind of looks like Kyren Williams, man. Same body stature, same running style. The number, they're in the 20s of their numbers. There's going to be some times if you're not paying attention, you might mistake one for the other, I think, in games that are going to happen. So based off his talent, everything I just said, he should be in the running back number 2. Now, running back number 3, in my opinion, should be Boston Scott. I like Ronnie Rivers, but Boston Scott, his versatility, his change of pace, I think his receiving ability, his quickness and area burst, very Darren Sproles-like his playing style. I think that's incredibly, incredibly valuable for any offense, no matter what scheme or style you are. I think he should be the running back 3. But if you have an argument for Ronnie Rivers, who I have as my 4th/pseudo 3, depending on how things shake out, I have no problem with that. Ronnie has started games for us, filled in when Kyren was out, ran admirably, but there is, I think a lack of his receiving ability. I know he did some good things in the screen game, but, our lineman blocked well and it was schemed up well. I just think he should probably be the 4th, and I wouldn't be shocked if he won the 3rd spot. And then we, don't forget about the Ole Miss man. I know Mark's one of Mark's favorite players.
Zach Attack.
Yeah, the Zach Attack. I was trying to think of the name. And again, a lot of potential with him, but he's fighting for a roster spot. Let's just be honest about his situation. Yeah. He is fighting for a roster spot right now based off the 4 guys that have proven they can play in big games. And obviously, I guess Blake Corum hasn't played it down in the NFL, but we assume he's going to be at least bare minimum a solid NFL running back. So I think, hey, Zach Evans is going to be up to him to do some good things in practice, joint practices, right? When it's like the second and third string guys are battling on the other side of the fields. And obviously preseason game, he's probably going to get a lot of action. He's the fifth guy, the odd man out right now, unfortunately for him. And we'll see what happens, but that's my 1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4.
I think Zach's destined for the practice squad. But now, have you guys shot down my theory that Boston Scott's going to be one of the return specialists?
Yeah,
no, he's
done that in the past. Yeah,
no, him and Tutu should be the two guys back there. Let's just be honest. There should be them two. So obviously he has serious value in that. But
the other interesting thing is that at that interview with McVay, that the lengthy interview that he had, he did say, "Oh, with Kyren Williams, Blake Corum, no plays off." He says when either or they're interchangeable. He doesn't have to do anything to alter his playbook, and that was the rationale behind drafting Blake the Great. And I also think, listen, the point we've made here, Iron Kyren missed 4 or 5 games last year, so this is going to keep him on the field. This actually will keep Kyren on the field more regularly because of the wear and tear being decreased dramatically. So you can see that running back room is rock solid, Ram Nation.
I think so.
And then, so let's talk about everybody's favorite position, wide receiver, right? So perfect segue to what the Rams do best, and that's
Paul, real quick. You mean wide receiver / fullback room? Is that what you mean to talk about?
Listen, we
the same room, by the way.
Right, and Ram Nation, if you think back, right. We right here on this show, the question was raised to me, 11, is it going to be 11, 12? And my response was, doesn't matter who's on the field. They can run 11 or 12. It doesn't matter from their base 11. And that's exactly what McVay said, because the blocking capacity of these wide receivers, which is just absolutely off the charts, right? And when we start to go through the depth chart even, they have some very, very physical wide receivers. So we're not just talking about their catching acumen or their route running capacity. Now we're talking about the ability to be physical. So let's go through this. I love this wide receiver room. And I don't want to speak for everybody else in Rams Up, but I know the Rams Up family loves this room as well. We have King Cup. You got to start with King Cup. So, we're hopeful that we're going to see the Cooper Renaissance right back to form, because if he starts clicking again with Puka, that is a 1-2 duo that is probably going to be tops in the league by far. Right? So we know it's going to be Coop, it's going to be Puka Nails. We got D15, Demarcus Robinson, D-Rob. D. Robinson has proven he's not just a wily veteran. He is a quality veteran. He's a legit wide receiver 3. He's a perfect complement. And there's a wonderful snippet of when Tyler Johnson got on the field. He's sitting there talking to D-Rob, and Tyler Johnson turns to him and he goes, I love football. And D-Rob looks down at him and goes, I love football. That's why I love being here. Once again, another player saying, this is last year's game, saying I love to be in Los Angeles with the Rams. So that's going to be the WR3. That's going to probably, no doubt about it, it's going to be Demarcus Robinson. Then you got Tutu. Tutu's got the WR4, in my opinion. I don't think there's any question of that. The fact that they're exploring return capabilities means they have confidence in him, and probably means Tutu wants to get on the field. He wants to show what he can do. The kid is electric. You can say whatever we want. Look, Creed Humphreys will always bother everybody. We know that, right? I'm sorry, Mark. Right? We know that, but it is what it is. Right? So Tutu Atwell will be WR4. Now is here's where it gets interesting. I love the Tyler Johnson signing. I think it's a great signing. For those of you that don't know, he had a great career at Minnesota. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's number 1 Minnesota all time in touchdowns, if not receiving yards. Yep. So Tyler Johnson, he played for 2 years with Brady. He's got a ring from playing with Brady. So
he was catching passes in the playoffs for them too.
Absolutely,
he's big games. It's not like some.
He's not just a throwaway receiver. So I love the Johnson signing. I also love the Jordan Whittington draft. People are going to be talking about this kid. If it's not this season, it's next season, man. If his knee is healthy and he's ready to go, he just fits in perfectly. He's got everything. He's got the mentality, the physicality, everything about it. And he is talented. Remember, this kid was, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was a 4-star, 5-star recruit at running back. That's how ridiculous this kid is. And that's something that's really big in the Rams offense is that yak capacity to take those 10, 15-yard plays and take them to the house. That's something that McVay has talked about, which has been missing from this offense. They have to do it more consistently. And I see that from this kid. Whittington can do that. So I think this is going to be interesting. Mark always asks me what's an interesting training camp battle. I think it's going to be Whittington and Tyler Johnson. I think it's going to be right there. We have some other receivers, but for Ram Nation, definitely keep an eye on that Whittington-Tyler Johnson scenario. It's win-win for the Rams, whoever comes out on top. It doesn't matter because they're both making the roster. There's some other names that have come up. I know everybody's talking about Drake Stoops, the coach's kid out of Oklahoma, right? Smaller player. We got the kid out of Cortland. So we have Xavier Smith that's made his name familiar. So, but I think the core players right there, I think that last spot for the wide receiver room is wide open. And that's really going to go to the player that probably can play the best on special teams, not just returning kicks, but special teams coverage. I think it's something that not a lot of people are talking about. The new kickoff rule is going to make special teams coverage a priority. So I think this last roster spot, I think that's going to be the deciding factor. Tight end. Wow. Talk about a position that the Rams don't utilize that is just glaring with talent. Just holy cow. You talk about your cup running over. So right now we know we got Colby Parkinson. You talk about return to LA, right? Yeah. So we know he's penciled in as a starter. But I am telling you, Ram Nation, this TE2 scenario with Davis Allen, this kid is uber talented. He has length beyond length. He just has to work on his blocking.
He can play, man.
The kid can play. Get the ball in his hands, get the ball downfield. He has to break tackles, has to be more physical in that aspect of it. The only thing holding this kid back is his blocking capacity. It's a big deal in this offense. The reason that Higbee and McVay have a bromance is because of Higbee's blocking capacity. He is an aircraft carrier in cleats, and if you watch him on those kickout blocks and on those leads, it's like another pulling guard.
I mean, he's another fullback. He's another pseudo fullback, just like our wide receivers. I mean, for everyone out there who doesn't understand how much you have to, real quick, Paul, I don't mean to cut you off because I know talk shit about Higbee. Excuse my language, but it's like, damn. Not everything's about catching passes, by the way. So what we call is a wham block, which you see a lot, or you see him, or our receivers do it as well. So basically what it is that instead of an O-lineman pulling meaning that he's not blocking the person in front of him, he's blocking someone on the other side of him away. So he's like turning and getting a running head start to lay somebody out and clear them out of the way. So when a wide receiver or a tight end or a fullback does that, they call that a wham block. And you saw Higbee do a ton of wham blocks on big D linemen, big edge rushers, and you gotta be ready for that, man. People don't understand, like, you are slamming into a big human being with all your might to kick them out, get them out of the way for a running play to happen. And Tyler Higbee was pretty good. Would he miss sometimes? And you'd see that sometimes he would go 100 miles an hour and go in to slam into the D lineman or the edge rusher and would miss. But sometimes that'd be enough to just hesitate that defensive lineman to not make the tackle. But to do that a lot, for which we asked him, no wonder why his ass was beat up all the time. Because, man, that is a hard thing to do constantly have to down block on D linemen. Constantly have to reach block on edge rushers. And then every other run play when it's not a wide receiver doing it, hey, can you be the lead fullback on this wham block duo play or counter or, tight end fullback trap? I mean, Higbee, shout out to that guy, man. Shout out to him. And he doesn't get enough respect for that stuff. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed about Higbee, too, is his body language when he misses a block. No one is more pissed off than Tyler Higbee when he doesn't get the full block on somebody.
Yeah.
It's It's kind of funny to watch.
He doesn't get the wham in the wham block.
Right,
know,
right.
yeah.
And you can tell with his body language.
Those backside kickouts, those backside seals, that's so those, that edge rusher or, the person coming off the edge doesn't come down the line of scrimmage to shut down the running game. I mean, that's a big deal. And that's another thing that Higbee does. He just wipes those guys out.
Yeah.
All right. So I definitely think, Hunter Long is a player that we talked about. They have a couple of other tight ends on the roster. I think Hunter Long's going to make the roster. I really do. I don't see much competition after that.
I was going to say, I think it's just like a numbers thing, isn't it? Like, who else is going to be? We need another tight end, for God's sakes, a third at least. So I definitely think I think that's a scenario there. Yeah.
So I think, but once again, I think the 1 and 2 there, Parkinson and Davis Allen. That keep an eye, Ram Nation, on that Davis Allen situation. I think he's going to find his way onto the field.
When do you think Higbee will be back? Do we have? I know that you put him on the physically unable to perform.
Yeah, they put him on PUP today.
Right.
I mean, I saw it the other day because I was just watching something randomly on TV, and that came up. The highlights came up. I mean, that looked gruesome. I mean, I'm not a medical expert, but that looks gruesome.
He tore a significant amount of ligaments in his knee. So I mean, if I see him anytime before week 8, the halfway point-ish, I'll be shocked. Yeah. I'll be absolutely shocked. I mean, if we see him in December even, I'd be like, wow, what a great comeback, because it was so late into the season, right? It's a playoff game. He got hurt. It was so late into the season.
Yeah, January.
Early into the next off season, right? Or the sequential season that we're in now. So truthfully, I think December would be ideal for like a good, okay, he's had enough time, maybe. But you always hear from people, man, when you have significant knee injuries, it almost takes you even another full season to really get back ramped up. So no wonder why the Rams gave Colby Parkinson an equivalent contract to Tyler Higbee, starting caliber, because they're hoping that Higbee can come back, but they're not counting on it. They're not counting on it, truthfully, based on that contract they gave to Colby. So we'll see. We'll see. But December, I think, would be the right time, maybe.
All right, Higgs, we're pulling for you, baby.
I want to see you back.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute road grader, man.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at the O-line now. The O-line situation, we have a lot of smiles. We got a lot of tonnage up there. So, Ian, you want to take a look at some of the spots, and we'll go over. Well, let's start with. You want to take a look at tackle? Let's take a look at tackle.
Yes, tackle. So we'll start with big Rob Havenstein. He's entering year 10 as a Ram. Fantastic. I mean, he talked in his press conference real quick about how he went from St. Louis to LA, Coliseum to SoFi. I mean, the man is, different practice facilities. I mean, he's seen it all as a Ram, and respect to him. So right tackle, Rob, the Iron Man, like I like to call him. Then we can start with who is his backup. Well, depending on how you want to look at it, hopefully it is not Zach Thomas, who we've seen some bad moments from, but Joe Noteboom is a serviceable, and I think he is a starting tackle in this league. I think he definitely can, so that would be the ideal backup. We have Warren McClendon possibly as a backup, and all these, I mean, let me back up. So Rob Havenstein's number 1. I think Joe Noteboom is the second offensive lineman for pretty much every position other than center.
Yeah, he's the swing guy. Yeah.
He's the 6th man, if you want to call it. But I think between Zach, AGR Curry, Warren McClendon, I mean, who knows how that's going to shake out? I have no idea, truthfully. Maybe Warren McClendon would probably be that 3rd man, possibly. But again, just like a lot of other positions, we're going to see how camp unfolds. These joint practices will tell a lot. Preseason games where we're going to see these guys. I think that is going to play a big factor in how that all shakes out. So again, Joel Noteboom's the official 6th man for every position we go forth. But again, Zach Thomas, Warren McClendon Jr., AGR Curry, who knows? And we're going to find out.
So Ram Nation. So the tackle situation looks actually rock solid. There was a lot of talk about Noteboom and his contract. So you're seeing the benefit of that now. So when you look at the tackle situation, left tackle, right tackle, you really have 2 on either side because you have Noteboom there. So you have Alaric, you have Havenstein Monster, and you have Noteboom back easily can back up at left tackle and right tackle. And that's very valuable in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
McClendon, I remember when they drafted him, I was a big fan of McClendon, kid from Georgia, has a lot of versatility. So, if he's listed and he wins that spot over, I know he had some injuries last year, but I think he's definitely capable, either playing inside as well. But as a backup third string tackle, I think he's definitely qualified for that role as well.
And let me not disrespect Lark Jackson. I did not name him because everyone else saw the back was fighting. But, it's a big year for him, man. He was brought back on a minimal deal, at least for left tackle standards, and gave up only 1 sack last year. I think he had like over 20 pressures. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but obviously it wasn't great. We saw some good moments for him. We've seen some bad moments. And then towards the end of the year, he was playing some pretty solid football, no doubt about it. But I think it really depends on his play. Is he going to be average? Is he going to be playing good football like he was at the end of last season? Or is it going to be up and down? I think anything other than playing good football like the end of this last season, I mean, we're not in a good spot with the O-line, despite the other positions. So he will be the starter unless something catastrophic happens or his play dips significantly and Noteboom overtakes him or something happens. But he will be the other starting right tackle. So do you want me to jump into the guards situation?
Yeah, let's take a look at the guards. Where's the beef? Let's answer that question.
Oh, well, we were all going to be in a pissed off mood if Kevin Dotson wasn't re-signed, right? When that was going on, and it was kind
the
of
real K-Dot.
Right, yes, the other K-Dot in LA. When we're happy to have you, Mr. Kevin Dotson, back. So he will be at right guard, I presume, and a monster. Should have been an All-Pro. Should have been a Pro Bowler. I mean, he was one of the best guards in football last year by a long mile, in my opinion. So, shocker. He got paid, balled out. Welcome back. And the big free agent signing on the other guard position on the left side, in my humble opinion, will be Mr. Jonah Jackson. Because, golly, he was another mauler back in those Detroit days. And the only thing that worries me about him is that his health. I mean, he's missed at least 4 games the last couple of years. But when he is out there, he is awesome. He's a Pro Bowl level player, borderline All-Pro when he's playing his best days. But we're hoping that everything's going to be fine. Obviously, he hasn't been practicing. I don't know what his practice situation is as of yet. We'll find out later this week, I assume. We'll find out as soon as tomorrow, right, when everyone starts practicing. But he will be the left guard no matter what, unless something catastrophic happens. Fantastic. Now, the backups, this is where things are going to get interesting, in my opinion. We got a lot of people back there. It gets coin flippy, right? We have Mike McAllister. We'll see how he performs. I think Logan Bruss's days at guard are done, and who knows what's going on with him. Will he be part of the right tackle? But again, right now they have him still as right guard, but they've been kind of pushing him to right tackle. But, that's a coin flip with his play that we've seen. KT Levinston, we're hoping maybe for some solid things from him. Maybe he can be the backup guard for either spot outside of Steve Opela having to move over in case there's some catastrophic things happening.
Also experienced at tackle for Leviston, right? KT that he also experienced at tackle, yeah.
Grant Miller, Justin, was it Dedich? I want to say or Dedick
from USC. Yep. He's a UDFA. Yeah, he's a UDFA. I like. Yeah. He's got experience at center, experience at guard, experience at tackle. Yeah, but it's going to be interesting. The numbers game might be in his favor.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the backup alignment stuff, guys. If everyone listening, it's going to be camp battles. No different from the tackle spot to the guard spot here. It's going to be camp battles, joint practice battles, preseason game action. That'll decide who gets those backup third string spots, or even who gets shot off the roster, unfortunately. So
now you didn't mention Bo Limmer, or are you about to get to him?
I was gonna chime in on that. So it looks like the roster battle here is going to be for the backups at guard. Bo Limmer, I think, eventually by the end of this camp is going to be the backup guard, if not the guard for both. Because the same thing that they're doing with Noteboom,
and center as well.
Yeah. Bo Limmer is an absolute monster. That's the draft pick that I cited. I think not enough people are talking about this kid, and I hope he stays healthy, because this kid is going to be an absolute bonus for the Rams. If they can bring him up to speed, We know the Rams like to redshirt freshmen, but they're not going to have a choice. Now, what might happen, this is a perfect scenario for the Rams to bring in a body to back up, would be probably at the guards center scenario. But I think Limmer early on, I think he's a definite cat. That's where you're going to see the real battle. He's the name to watch. Logan Bruss, we're hoping that he can salvage his career because if he's a valuable, think about it. If he can back up at guard, think about what it does for the Rams in terms of their depth scenario. So that's really where the value is going to come into play, where the battles are going to happen. Is really at this guard scenario, backup guard scenario, and who's going to be that tackle that's after Noteboom. You mentioned AJ Akuri, the kid from Michigan State that's been on the roster. So he's another one. We know Avila's got it locked down at center, but Bo Limmer right now is penciled in as the backup.
Well, look, gentlemen, to your point about why I did not bring up Bo Limmer, because I think, and I have no inside info, just me looking at the position groups and who is there and who is not. I mean, Bo Limmer is the only other center. They're going to shelve him and make sure he will be available to play center if something happens. So why I did not put him in the guard rotation, which probably will ultimately end up having to happen. He'll probably outplay all the other guys we just talked about. That'll probably end up happening. But I think Coach McVay and everyone will be like, we need to shelve that guy, because if something happens to Avila, we are in serious trouble.
Yeah, and what if
serious trouble?
And you have to consider, let's say Bo Limmer is their best seventh offensive lineman, whatever you want to call him, and Jonah Jackson goes down. Do you move Avila back to left guard and plug Limmer?
I don't think that's going to happen. I think Avila is going to stay to center. I think regardless of what happens at camp, they'll pencil people in. They're bringing in a backup body. It's going to be a veteran body. A veteran body's on its way. Whether it's going to be after camp, somebody savvy, somebody affordable, but a veteran body is coming, because you can't roll with Logan Bruss. You're asking for disaster. And you can't roll with Zach Thomas.
And maybe Matthew Stafford will throw some money back at the Rams to go sign a guard to help him out.
Yeah.
I bring that up.
Let's take a look at the defense. Let's take a look at the blue steel. Let's take a look at defense. What for D-line? We know we got the conductor. We know we got Braden. We know we got Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
Right? So depth-wise, what do you look at? We got Tyler Davis.
I like that draft
honestly, Tyler Davis and DeJuan Johnson. So I think those are the five. Is that who you have on yours?
I do like, Laryl Murchison being a rotational guy. I mean, he'll probably get some action, I assume. But, Braden, Kobe, Bobby, I mean, those are the starting three. Anything else, would be shocking. And then Tyler Davis rotating in at nose tackle, switching him with Bobby, I think will be what will happen. And then Laurel will probably be filling in for either Braden or Kobe, depending on the situation. So I think that's probably the five deep. And I know everyone else, again, camp battles is going to decide it. I have no idea at the moment.
A guy like Corey Durden, maybe. And, and Michael Hoyt's a wild card. I'm not saying he's going to be part of that defensive line rotation, but,
I think his days are done there. I do.
Yeah. McVay made a comment in the one interview insinuating that they haven't done Hoyt justice by
hell no, they haven't. Jesus.
Putting him in positions where they're going to try. I think what he's trying to say is they have the people now where they can now utilize Hoyt the way he should be utilized and not put him in bad positions. So what that means, where he rolls in, I'm not sure. We'll have to see.
Yeah,
I think he's going to get some. I think he's going to get some reps to pass rush from the end spot. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities to get on the field while both Monster Zero and Bars are on the field. So I think that's just going to happen. I think that would be a great front. And I think it would give the Rams a lot of flexibility. I think it would keep him fresh. I think it would be keep everybody else fresh. But, Durden has shown that he can stop the run. I think what's going to happen is also
Corey Durden,
the Rams. Yeah, Corey Durden. I think Corey Durden has shown that he can stop the run. So he might forge his way into that. One thing I will say is Tyler Davis. Keep an eye on Tyler Davis. I think if somebody can hold down a backup spot at nose behind Bobby Brown, I think they want to get Tyler Davis into a non-nose tackle scenario. Let him play some end, right? I think this kid would be great for I think he'd be great in any of the other scenarios. I don't think he can just play the 0 and the 1. I think this kid's got a lot more potential than just playing lumbering nose tackle. So that's a training camp scenario for the Ram Nation to keep an eye on, is watch Tyler Davis get some opportunities outside of just stopping the run and being a run stuffer.
Yeah.
Edge rusher, man, another position where Ram Nation, we should be proud and we should be excited. Ian, what do you think? I got Byron. I got Monster 0, one side, Bars on the other. We know that's a no-brainer.
Verse. I mean, look real quick. If they are not starting week 1, then something catastrophic is going wrong. Health, Verse is not playing well. Byron's not playing. You know what I'm saying? Let's just be real quick. Let's just say that off the bat. Those guys, no doubt about it. Number 0 and number 8, we're going to get them mixed up like Blake and Kyron, right? The numbers and the way their body type is, or we're going to get them mixed up on certain times. Those 2 should be the main 2 guys most of the game playing. Anyway, I just want to share that real quick. So yes, I agree with those 2.
So we got our starters. We got Bars, and one name I do want to shout out. We did say, Mark, you wanted another training camp battle. My boy, right on the D line.
Oh, D line.
Tuli,
okay.
Latuli Gassanoa. Tuli, he is going to find his way onto this roster.
Podcasters don't like guys like that.
Kid is from UW. Greg Gaines is pulling for him.
Well, those are the guys we need a nickname for, Paul. Help me out here.
So the big dog, I mean, LT, the other LT, the Rams LT, right? He's going to find his way onto this roster. He might free up, and that's going to be a nasty front. If he winds up being that type of high velocity player, he might not get a lot of reps, but he can free up the other guys to do some other things and get some reps to Tyler Davis.
Are you still talking edge here?
So edge we got. So now we're talking about our boy Hollywood Hoyt. I think Hollywood is going to be the first man off the bench.
Yep.
Action Jackson's going to be right after him. And here's where the training camp battle is going to happen. Mark's favorite player, right? Nick Hampton and O'Shawn Mathis. I think those 2 fighting it out for that last spot, right? In terms of playing time. Listen, there's only so many reps to go around, but Nick Hampton and O'Shawn Mathis both have shown.
Dejuan Johnson too, right? I mean, I think he's probably in that
He was able to stand up in college as well, not just put his hand down in the dirt. Keir Thomas, I think, is going to be the odd man out. I think Keir Thomas is going to be the odd man out. But keep an eye on this battle between Hampton and O'Shawn Mathis. O'Shawn Mathis physically, the kid is physically gifted, and so is Nick Hampton. Yeah. I mean, Nick Hampton plays like he is shot out of a cannon. Right? He is absolutely nonstop motor. They have a lot of nonstop motor guys. The issue here is going to be pass coverage. I don't see a lot of pass coverage ability in this group. And that's something that was exposed last year. They are a very physical, they play in one direction, which is full speed forward. We saw that teams might try to take advantage of that. So that's something we got to keep an eye on here, particularly if you're going to play a lot of, drop and rush 4. However, if you're using your 2 outside linebackers as the primary rush guys, that might be a moot point, but still something to keep in mind. But this is a rock solid group. It's a young group, but definitely has a lot of pass rush sizzle. Inside, what do we got? We got Ernest Jones. Listen, the dude is a rock.
Hey, that man. Gosh dang it.
Dude is a rock in the middle. And the fact they're using him as a blitzer, kudos to this defensive coaching staff that he's more than just a hitman. He can get after it. He's also very, very underrated in pass coverage. The competition is going to be after him. I think it's going to be Roseboom. The issue is going to be here. Here's where we get to have a little bit of fun. I think so. It's going to be Jones and Roseboom. Hummel, you got Troy Readers on the roster. I think that's going to be an interesting battle.
You're going to bring up that guy from Rutgers right about now, aren't you?
Listen, we got a couple of players, right? For the sake of time, we won't go too deep into it, but I think the name that's going to sneak into the conversation is going to be Omar Speights.
All right.
I think this kid, I think this kid is – the Rams got a couple of thumpers there at inside linebacker, but somebody who can really run and cover, that's what keeps Roseboom in the mix. Roseboom's got really good pass coverage ability, Ram Nation. Hummel
he was
played
solid last year. I mean, I don't know why people act like
solid.
he was just crap or something. I mean,
rock solid last year.
Guys, we're going to do some film breakdowns as the years go on. And again, if Roseboom is bad, we will point it out here. And if he is playing good, I'm going to point it out. And that's how we're going to do things, okay? So Roseboom is starting level again. But gentlemen, we all know this. Ram Nation listening in. He does not play a majority of the snaps because we are so heavy dime. We are so heavy nickel package where we use 5-6 DBs and we take out an extra inside linebacker. So it's not like this is 1985 where it's running traditional 3-4 and it's just straight 2 inside linebackers the whole game. It's not like that. So everyone just relax. Roseboom starting is not the end of the world based on how we did last year, okay? I just want to share that.
Just keep reminding yourselves, Ram Nation, when Lake gets on the field, somebody's got to come off, right? And the star being on the field is probably going to happen probably 85% of the time. That's just the nature of the modern passing defense. So it's not a bad scenario to have. So the camp battle is going to be between Hummel, our boy Reader, who always has a special place in our heart, right? Big play Reader.
The world champion.
That's right. And I think
starting linebacker, crazy. Jesus.
And Omar Spates, he is the wild card. We have some other linebackers in there, but I think those are the names just to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Then we get to our secondary. We're going to close it out with secondary and just touch on special teams. But secondary-wise, we got D. Will is definitely penciled in at one spot. We know we're waiting on the return of T. White, return of the Mac, right? T. White, when he's ready to roll, that's going to give the Rams 2 solid cornerbacks. I think at this point, I think with JJ's return, I think it's written in stone at this point. What do you guys think? I think Lake's going to be the star. I think that's the way it's going to roll.
That way right now, yeah.
And that's the way it looks. So I think that's rock solid. I think Kobe Durant, right after that, we're mentioning. So I think Kobe Durant is very happy too, because now he's one notch lower on the roster. I think for him, I think that's a better situation for him. Durant, I think, has proven that he is much better on the outside than the inside. And that's just a reality, Ram Nation. People have to embrace. It's just the way it is. It's just the nature of this one player. However, Kobe Durant this year hopefully will get a chance to show off his athleticism and his big play capacity. He definitely he had a rough season. The sophomore slump was definitely present for our boy Kobe, but he's definitely a better player than what we saw on film last year. The name, I mean, we don't have to say it. We know Kendricks. That's the name that right now. So when we start talking about camp scenarios, he's one name you got to keep an eye on. So a name that not a lot of people are talking about, Trey Tomlinson. He's just fallen off the map, right? So that's another name. So you got Kendricks, you got Tomlinson is another one. And 2 names that I really think people should keep an eye on is I like these 2 UDFAs that the Rams have brought in. That's Josh Wallace and the player, they had a nice write-up on him. The player we talked about when they first signed him, the Clamp, right? Cam Lampkin. The Rams are trying to corner the market on all players named Cam, right? So the kid played great at Washington State. He's got a great college resume, good size and aggressiveness. I think the Clamp, Josh Wallace, I think they definitely have the ability to steal a spot, and I think they're going to be given every opportunity to steal a spot. So, and with Chris Shula out there, I think Chris Shula is going to be looking for playmakers. So I think it's going to be everybody after Kobe Durant. I think that's where the battles are going to be. You got 3 spots that are up for grabs. Kendricks definitely has the sort of like the head start. He's definitely got the advantage right now. But I think that's going to be the most interesting camp battle is going to be in the secondary scenario for the latter half of the quarterback positions.
So let me. So you think John Johnson's for sure the starting free safety? I think strong.
I think what's going to happen is either JJ is going to get that starting free safety spot, or what they're going to do is they're going to let Lake play free safety, and then in certain scenarios, Johnson's going to come in and Lake's going to drop down to the star. I think that's going to be the plan B.
And
So
we'll see what
either
happens
or.
Kitchens too, right? I mean, we'll see how he plays out because there was a lot of high hopes for him, Cameron Kitchens.
The safety scenario gets even more muddy when you start talking about Cam Kitchens and Russ Yeast, right? So where's Russ Yeast going to fit in, right?
Yeah.
So that's the part that Cam's going to straighten out for us, is really going to decide. I don't think Cam Kitchens is going to go down quietly. I think he wants to get out there. I think Russ Yeast wants to get out there. So they're going to be interesting to watch out. But I think Cam Kitchens is making the roster. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
And I think he can make the roster.
And let me say this hypothetical scenario of the dime package, and real quick for everyone out there, it's when you have 6 defensive backs on the field. So Darius Williams on one corner, Tre'Davious White on the other corner, Quinn Lake as the star, Russ Yeast, who played the dime linebacker spot. So you take out Christian Roseboom, who's next to Ernest Jones, and you put in Russ Yeast next to him. So that would be the dime linebacker. And then you have John Johnson and Cameron Curl. So I think that would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 actually. And I think that'd be pretty good. I think that group. What do you guys think? Again, John
and
Johnson.
How great will Cam be? How great would Cam be backing up Russ Yeast at the dime linebacker?
I think it'd be good. And again, one more time, everybody, in case it escaped you or audio stuff. D. Will, one corner. Tre'Davious White, the other corner. Quinn Lake at the star. Russ Yeast at the dime. And then you have John Johnson and Cameron Curl up top. I think that's probably going to be the ideal defensive back package group coverage unit when the season gets kicked off, I think. But we'll see. Maybe Darion Kendrick plays great. Maybe Kobe Durant steps up. Maybe John Johnson, takes a step back as he, as gets more veteran heavy in his years of playing in the league. Who knows? But that would probably be ideal to see, I think, right?
What are your thoughts, special teams? Obviously, that's been a sore point for the Rams.
Alex Ward's a long snapper.
Yep.
Hey, so I have a question about special teams, and so with the new rules, I mean, previous to the old rules, there's a distinct difference between the characteristics of a kick returner and a punt returner. Is that still true?
Under the new rules?
Yeah. What I'm getting at is, could we have one player serving both duties, Tutu Atwell, Boston Scott, whatever the case may be? Right. You know what I'm saying? I think the kick returns are going to be more punt returnish, aren't they?
No, I definitely think the kick return will be more.
I think it's going to be more running back-esque.
Well, right. But certainly, that's quite a bit different than a returning traditional kickoff still, right?
Yes, and I still think that is different than even punts, because punts, once the ball has been snapped, it's everyone's full go. No one can move until the kick returner in a kickoff catches the kickoff. So on punt, everybody, that's not changing. So punts with ball snap, defense is rushing, and then as soon as the ball has been punted away, then the defense is reacting to block. So in kick return, it is not the traditional sense.
Right.
Ball is kicked in the air. Kick returner has the chance to make the catch, and then everyone can start moving. So that is what Tutu had mentioned earlier, which he thinks will benefit him, because he is not people in the kick return, where people are not flying 100 miles an hour like a punt or the old kickoff rule where everyone's full go from the snap. It is when you are already getting into full speed, then everyone else is allowed to start running at you, and the play develops. So based off your question, Mark, the kick return, specialty, right, of the returner is very different than a punt returner now, in my opinion. Now, Boston Scott should be the punt returner anytime, anywhere, in my opinion. And then Tutu should be featured on kick return with Boston Scott, because I think Tutu did not handle the punt return duties well. Obviously, in his rookie year, maybe things are different now. But I think because of his durability, his body type, the way he plays, him getting smacked by people running full speed, got him hurt that first year, right, when he tore his shoulder. That was on punt return, I want to say, if I remember correctly, him getting tackled out of bounds. That's when he injured it. I don't think that benefits him. But kickoff, where he is able to get that head start, I think that's
okay. And that's why I asked this question, because I didn't want to steal your thunder, Paul, but I was trying to nail down, if we're going to have a kick returner and a punt returner. I guess the answer is yes. Tutu kicks, Boston Scott perhaps punt returns. Is that where you're going with it, Paul?
I think that's going to be. I think that's where the mad scientist sort of scenario is going to come in for training camp for a lot of teams. Is like how they're going to address this return scenario. I think kickoff and punt.
And I think you need two returners for kick return, based off the rules of it landing in the landing zone, right? It's not like with the old school where even if it touches the field and rolls out of bounds, it's still a penalty on the kicking team, and you have good field position as the offense. If it hits the landing zone and then rolls out, then it's like a punt. So be it. On where we go, So, and I think you need two kick returners to cover the length of the field, which I think we will see, and we should hopefully see Boston Scott and Tutu be the main guys, and obviously whoever side they like more than the other, then that's who gets the ball. Or who knows? It's going to be very fun to watch, see how this unfolds. But I think it should be two on kick return. Sorry to interject.
Special teams is going to be a real area of focus for the Rams. We know that they have a phenomenal punter. Not only can he squat over 500 pounds, right, but he can boom it, and he is actually very, very good at directional kicking. So that's going to be extremely important this year. He can also handle kickoffs. The Rams have a rookie kicker, Josh Carty. We know that's going to be really, really interesting. We're hopeful that he can be.
Please, Mr. Carty, kick good. Please
be clutch. Please be clutch. Please help us check that box.
Well,
right?
You know what? Let's not. I'm not even going to go that far, even though that'd be great. Can you just make the kicks that are supposed to be made? Can you make stuff?
You mean inside of 45 yards?
Can you make stuff under 50 yards? Can you just at least be money on that? That's all I asked for. Because if we're close enough, I do think McVay will have confidence in the offense to, say, hey, we're in that weird no man land. Might as well just go for it. I believe in Matthew Stafford to throw us into a first down, right? But please, Mr. Carty, can you please make the kicks that you're supposed to make? Give me everything under 50 yards, please.
Just in closing, I think the returners are definitely going to be, now that Tutu let the cat out of the bag, I definitely think you're looking at somebody like Scott and with Tutu, or maybe somebody like, I don't know, Zach Evans. Maybe Whittington wants to take a shot. I don't think they'll take a chance with Whittington though, but I think it's definitely going to be something like Scott and Tutu. A kickoff scenario is probably Scott's going to handle the punt return because he's super reliable and he's done it before. I think whether or not McVay, he didn't mention it at his presser, but I think high on his priority list is to get the special teams in order, the coverage units, the return units. I think that's going to be a major priority. I don't think he wants that to become a festering boil like it has been in the past couple of seasons. It should be an area, if it's not going to be an area of glaring strength, it should be an area of consistency. And I think that's going to be a major priority. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, it may be trivial, but you mentioned that Ethan Evans, the punter, can handle kickoffs. I don't know, his leg strength, that's why he was kicking off last year. Our coverage was so bad. Kick it out of the back of the end zone. That doesn't work anymore, though, right? So is he still suited for kickoffs, or is it going to be Joshua Carty?
That's where the mad scientist scenario comes in. They're going to try it both ways.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I care. I just can't wait to see what they do.
There's going to be a time where a kicker's going to be one-on-one the returner. He's going to get embarrassed. I mean, we're going to see it probably more often than not. And Ethan Evans, being the squat master that he is his body type and his strength is valuable on kickoffs now. So hopefully he learns some new skill sets in the kicking game outside of punting, because, again, his body type and stature for possibly more likely than not being in scrums tackling the returner, which the XFL had a significant amount of kickers being involved on, the scrums of tackling the returner or tackling one-on-one. It's going to happen. We're going to be put in that situation, and I don't think Mr. Carty is going to have any chance. Ethan Evans, maybe. So
that could cost you the season. So that's another. So there are a lot of scenarios that are going to unfold based on this new rule. I mean, this new rule seemed very innocent when they rolled it out. And to Mark's point, there's a lot of game within the game now that has been brought back to special teams, which I think is a good thing. It is the third phase of football, and it should be appreciated and become an area of focus. But I think there's a lot of game within the game now that's going to have to be hashed out during training camp and during the season as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and it probably would be ideal just to let Joshua Carty concentrate on making 38-yard field goals and let Ethan Evans handle the kicking.
Please give me everything 50 and under, for God's sake. God.
Yeah. And I think he will. I think he will. I'm not convinced. Not sure about the 54 and 57 yarders, but I could live with 90% on the 49 yarders.
Yeah.
Is that all we got? Till next time, after we get some training camp sessions underway. Hey, and if any of you listeners or viewers out there are at training camp and you want to come on the show and report for us, shoot me an email. We'll try to get you on. And we probably want to do this next week, right? Next Tuesday, maybe. See what's happened between now and then.
Training camp updates.
It's on, gentlemen. August is upon us. People are reporting to camp. Everyone will be practicing by tomorrow. I mean, you're stuck with us, everybody, for the next how many months till Super Bowl Sunday? It feels like.
Oh yeah, mid-February.
Like the song says, the boys are back in town. Blue Thunder is rolling.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot for your time. And out here from Rams Up, we'll do it again in a week.
Yes.
Make sure you subscribe, Ram Nation.
Go Rams, baby. See you all soon.